How you doing? Can anybody read? All right, I can see it. So I don't know. I'll figure it out. But CE Christian audiences. First, let's start Christian audiences. To me, when we speak about the common Christian audience in America, I don't think it's is for poor people, poor kids. Um, I mean, it's good to give people hope, but I don't think it's for poor communities. I think it's for middle class families. CAM versus CE. That's my acronym for Christian affirmative music or Christian affirmation music versus CE, which is Christian entertainment. Now, it made me think because the audience is given to a certain populace of people and not so much poor people and stuff like that, it really flies over the head of like duties and skills. And I don't really blame them because the Bible did the same thing in the first century. Jesus told people, "Hey, just trust in me." But what he didn't say was, okay, go get a job and stuff like that," because it was already in the culture. At least that's my reasoning behind it. I don't know the reason, the scholars' reasons, but that's what he does. He says, "Hey, just follow me, trust God, and all that stuff, and then everything will be okay." And they don't. If you're poor, you'll be thinking, "Okay, that's all I got to do." Then God will give me something good, like a reason out of it and stuff. And at least in my opinion, uh, no, if you're poor, you need to learn how to get out of your poverty. Um, and it's like I don't know. It was just it, I just don't think the Christian audience are given things like that, practical advice about how to live and how to function as a human being. And is weird because they monetize off it still. I mean, I guess they don't, but they have these conferences and stuff instead of just telling them like this is how you become a better person, a better overall developing adult. And so how the audience connects to the CM and CE is because Christian affirmative music and the Christian entertainment. Because Christian entertainment and they both don't. I'm using these terms because I have to define the difference. They don't make those differences, and when they do, they just say, "Oh, it's just I'm just making a ministry for God," and it's like, no, you're trying to get a career, and you're just trying to happen to attach God to it. And some of it works because some of them are their skills prove to be viable to that market. Uh, or like for instance, POD. When from what I read, I watched the documentary about how they blew up, and this is like kind of after 9/11, but prior to 9/11, they were still doing the same old stuff. Making music that they enjoyed, but also music that had a purpose, had a point, had some hope to it. And when 9/11 happened, people weren't trying to listen to like, oh, attack the system. No, the system is down for the moment. We don't need any extra fight the power, fight the system. We was like, no, we need some help. So when 9/11 came, I guess POD came in and I mean they were always doing what they were doing. They just their purpose got magnified because it was far more viable for that time. And so for me, I'm like, in a weird sense, like for instance, they made the song "Here Comes the Boom." I didn't know that. I was like, oh shoot, and it was popular. It was used everywhere. And who knows what other songs that they have. And I like to think that in that section of Christian entertainment or Christian media, that it kind of intersects both sides. But the difference to me is that you have entertainment that doesn't have anything to do with affirming your faith, that has everything just to do with entertaining you, even if it's jokes, sounds good, and that's what I mean. The forefront that it sounds good and it entertains you, you know. And then they've had these talks already, but it's been just about um oh, okay. Like people don't want to say that because the mainstream people say that too. That oh, I don't like listening to trap music or drill music or whatever like that. I don't listen to it for the message. I listen to it because it sounds good, and it typically does. It's very catchy. Like you listen to future stuff, it's like oh shoot, like because he's melodic. When people act like that, they don't that stuff doesn't require talent. it does require talent for something to be pleasing to your ears. You can be like Gucci Man, Gucci Man, Gucci Man, Gucci Man, and people say, "Oh, that's dumb," but it's like if they you like it, they had to like it for some logical reason. Had I'm like the music industry is specialized in finding what the common person wants. So, and it sucks because the church had emulated that too. Because you see it all the time. They make some catchy song that has nothing to do with anything. It's just catchy, and they say, "Well, we should be able to make catchy, artsy music," and that's I guess that's true. I think there is a place for affirmation in the sense of entertainment, but I think it needs to be understood to be that and not to be as, oh, we're inspiration music. That's Christian music. We're music to give you inspiration. Instead, let your music just be entertaining, the theme of entertainment, And people, again, I feel like the Bible can be used to justify pretty much anything a Christian wants to do. And even if it's not really ethical or biblical or whatever. I mean, it's like a lawyer. It's like being a lawyer. You can use this passage or that passage to justify anything you want to do. And so, but the big difference between these two is that CAM, the affirmative music, actually helps a believer versus entertainment is, and that don't get me wrong. If people are falling down, they don't need heavy stuff at the moment. If people are questioning everything, sometimes they need very, very, very simple truths to restore them. Um, so I think there's a balance there, but sometimes each each side they bounce in other each other's territory when they're not supposed to. So when one of them is supposed to go somewhere that's helpful for the culture, is it becomes very watered down, or if something's come very punchy to the culture, it becomes like it's crushing them. So it's just strange. I feel like the church, well, at least the American church, speaking as American, that it's like it's not very not organized. Like especially now during these political times, it's just been very disorganized, very confused. Not really sure where it wants to go. Not really sure what it wants to stand for. It's standing for certain things that initially it would have been prominently against, but due to weird things like tradition and culture, it doesn't really see a problem. And also politics. I think politics has a problem with it too. But going back to my points of those two differences, of those three things, the Christian audience to me hasn't been taught to be critically, and I think Ruslan, this artist, Christian artist named Ruslan, uh, he's made a mention of the same thing about Christians not being able to be critical thinkers. And I think that's problematic. It's really problematic because if you're going to be a critical thinker, you should be you should really capture this in your mind. You should really like they say the brand mentality. And that's another problem I do have. I don't know if it's a problem per se, in as much as our focus is less on critically applying the Bible or practically applying the Bible and figuring out like, okay, maybe and that's why I'm thankful for channels like Ruslan and stuff like that, because they teach you like, okay, maybe you should not pleasure seek all the time, you know, or maybe you should get a therapist, you know. But sometimes it's just I feel like the culture has heavily over spiritualized things to the point where they're no longer useful and they become more than what they were intended for. Whether it's dating, marriage, um, God's plan for your life, or God's soulmate, or whatever, whatever, whatever. And it's like sometimes I'm like I feel I want to say, and I feel like I want to say, some of these people are lying. Some of these people are lying, and they're not telling the truth, and they're not, even if it's unintentionally, they're just not telling you the full truth. And I just I don't know. I feel like I've dedicated and perhaps potentially wasted time just dedicating to the church, or at least dedicating to theology, when I should have been trying to be better, well rounded, and being a living person. And now that I've come to a process of deconstruction, I'm still on that road to recovery of being a potentially successful person. But it's still tough because it's like, man, I like all this wasted time and all these bad priorities. And it wasn't just the church. I made bad choices myself. Um, but it's like the church don't help sometimes. I, yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yes.